So I've lived in Thailand for 5 years now, and I always, in my videos, try to focus on the positive side of life here in Thailand. I don't want to be one of those negative channels. I do focus on some negatives in terms of the people who come to Thailand, but in terms of the actual country itself, I'm very lucky to live here. I don't want to complain about that. But I saw a video the other day of a guy in Japan, and he was talking about some things that were difficult for him living in Japan. And I found it quite interesting. And I started having to think to myself, what are the difficulties that I experience living here in Thailand? And I've actually come up with 4. There might be a couple more. I don't want to go too overboard. I don't want to really torture myself oh, I hate this. I hate the dogs outside 7-Eleven and all that shit. These 4 things start off pretty tame. Number 1, people will definitely disagree with, but it's a personal one. And they're going to get a little bit more serious as I go from 4, 3, 2, 1 to what I find to be the most difficult, challenging part of living here. So let's get straight into it. Number 4, people are definitely going to disagree with this one. I miss a little bit of cold weather sometimes. And I know some people are going to be like, you absolute idiot. Don't click off, don't click off. Just hear me out. I'm not going to spend long talking about this. Coming from the UK, we obviously used to sort of cold, wet weather. But I actually lived in Korea and Japan before, and Korea and Japan have these crazy humid summers. And then Korea especially has these super, super extreme cold winters. And I kind of liked that contrast because you could be in the exact same spot in 2 to 3 feet of snow in December, and then come June, you'd be there with 45 degrees heat. And to me, it really helps structure the year. Looking forward to the winter vacation, you're looking forward to your summer vacation. Whereas Thailand, because it's just a rainy season or not rainy season, everything kind of feels the same all the time. Even the rainy season, yeah, sometimes the pollution's bad. You look outside, today, the mountains here, pretty clear, pretty nice. But even if it was rainy season right now, which it's not, it might be cloudy today. Tomorrow it clears up, the day after it's cloudy. It doesn't feel like clear, defined seasons. And sometimes I just have that idea in my head that I just miss that structured year where the summer becomes more exciting. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about the fact that the weather is beautiful here when we can go and enjoy the weather. It's just sometimes a little bit of a chill in the air feels kind of nice. So the second thing that bothers me about life here, a little bit more serious, but not if you're careful, is I advocate that everyone who comes here long term should buy a car, not a bike. A bike's good for whizzing around the city, for weaving in and out of traffic. A car is good for seeing the real side of this country. I have seen more in the 1 year that I've had a car here than I did in the previous 4 years that I was living here and the 10 years of traveling here before that combined. I've seen so much more of this country, so much more of the culture, the people, hidden spots that you just don't see otherwise. Little beaches that you would never go to in a million years. Tiny little hidden beach that you would never see otherwise. You go there, you chill out for an hour, you let your kiddie play in the water. You don't get those experiences without having a car. However, when you buy a car, you have to drive it. And driving here can be very, very dangerous. And I'm not talking about driving in Bangkok. Obviously, that's hard work because of the traffic and whatnot. But I'm talking more in terms of these semi-busy areas. The countryside is one thing because obviously the roads are very empty. You have to keep your wits about you. But generally, nothing's just going to come out of a field into the side of you. When you're on bypasses, expressways, high roads, etc., some people are in such a fucking rush. It's unbelievable, mate. It's so dangerous. The amount of times that I've been undertaken at what must be 200 miles per hour. Bikes generally are okay. It's the cars and the trucks. The trucks here, if you've ever been kind of close to an industrial area where there's a load of big trucks, big lorries driving around, be very, very cautious. Those guys will turn the indicator on and think, right, job's a good one. Job's a good one. I've indicated that I'm planning on moving. If anyone's in the lane that I want to move into, that's their problem. I always give myself extra time whenever I'm traveling anywhere because I just don't want to risk it. I don't want to have to be in a rush and then I become part of that problem and I'm weaving against other people who are weaving in and out of traffic. The number 3 thing that bothers me living here, and it's not so much that this one bothers me, but it can create an atmosphere, is that the foreigner community here becomes so segregated it can create this weird atmosphere, especially when you're living in like a condo, for example. They're your neighbors, right? So generally, if you're living anywhere in the world, your neighbors, you just say hello to them and stuff like that. You let on to them. I don't find that here, and I don't mean with the Thai people, I mean with the foreign community. Obviously, there's some people who come here to Thailand, as I've spoken about before, for the wrong reasons. What I think are the wrong reasons, they think are the right reasons. Not even those, you know, SEX tourists, SEX expats. It's not those people that are the main thing. It's every community seems to live in its own little bubble, and no one's really friendly to each other. And having lived in Korea where, I don't know, maybe the expat community, because it's less varied, because there's less variety of expats in places like Korea and Japan, everyone just seems so much more friendly towards each other and open to getting to know each other. And that's how I've made some of my best friends, is by getting to know people who, the only thing we really have in common is the fact that we're both living in a particular country. But from that, a great friendship will grow. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying every time I leave the door and get in the lift of my condo, I want to make a good friend. But what I also think is, if I get in the lift with my baby and there is someone from a different country in there, because the Thai people are always really friendly, but you get certain people from certain countries, and again, it's a personality thing, who will literally like look down at the baby like this. And I'm just like, what's wrong with these people, man? They do not have like social skills. Some people who move abroad, not everyone, some people, they don't have social skills. There's a reason that they didn't feel settled at home. They go to another country to start a new life, but they don't suddenly become socially aware. Am I judging people here? Absolutely yes. But the amount of times that I have sort of been in a situation where a polite hello would be all it takes, just hello, how are you today? That type of thing. But it's actively avoided, but there's still eye contact and there's still this weird tension. I think people generally like to stick amongst their own group. You see it in certain areas are dominated by certain nationalities, certain groups, etc. And for me, that's why I like being where I am, which is away from all that. I like to sort of stay out of all that because I think it can be such an unwelcoming atmosphere. If you're still here, thank you. I hope you found this video interesting, and maybe it's something that you might have to deal with if you're thinking of moving out to Thailand yourself. So the number one thing that bothers me about life here in Thailand, and I think any foreigner who lives here for a prolonged period of time is going to experience it, is even though I've got a wife and even though I've got a baby and even though I do everything that I need to do in terms of financial requirements, you know, registration, documents, etc., I always feel like I'm one mistake during the application process of being kind of kicked out, not necessarily permanently kicked out, but having to start again. And it can really give you anxiety when you've got a kid and you've got a wife, and you also are in a situation where, I'll just say it right now, you don't want to go to an agent and pay them 40,000 baht to do it for you, because that's a hell of a lot of money. You're capable of doing it yourself. You've done it yourself, but often new things can come up. And I've always said, regarding visas, you got to go with the flow. I've learned that myself. There was times where I used to get frustrated by it. Right now, if someone asks me to do something, I do it. But that doesn't mean that you feel comfortable or you feel relaxed in the process. You know, that moment where you're sat at the desk and they're looking through all the documents, it's kind of scary because you're looking at them and you're thinking they could look up right now and say, oh, sorry, this is incorrect. It's happened to me. I've been literally told to do a border run, which reset the whole process. Now, luckily where I was, I could just do an in and out on the day. But if I had to fly out of the country or something to then start the whole process again, that's a lot of work and a lot of hassle. And of course I would do it, but it's kind of stressful when I just want to be here with my two girls. That's the only reason I'm here. I'm not saying that in a critical way of Thailand. Everyone moves to a country for a reason, right? The reason I am here in Thailand is because of my wife and my baby, and we just want to be together. But you always feel like you're on edge, never fully permanent. And that's why I think, having lived here 5 years, I still don't fully feel settled. And I probably never will. I've spoken to certain people who have been here for 25 years and they're always doing that same process. And I'm sure it gets easier. I'm sure eventually you go into autopilot, but it would be nice to just not have to do it in general. You know, as long as you're not breaking the law, as long as you're doing everything right, as long as you're taking care of your wife and your kid and you're not doing anything dodgy to them either, because obviously they're my reason for being here. They are my purpose for being here. It would be nice to just relax and feel comfortable, but everything always feels like it's got a little asterisk above it, and that's fine. I'll have to deal with it, but that is something that if you are thinking of coming out here long term, maybe you should consider. That's it for this one, guys. Hope it's been insightful. And I don't feel like it was too negative. It wasn't negative about Thailand itself. It's just certain situations that you have to deal with depending on the type of experience that you want out here. I think that's bloody good insight. See you in the next one.